Hi, this is Ian, a little mini rant again. This is about escape velocity and how it is sometimes misleadingly represented in the form of the event horizon of a black hole. So the event horizon is the point where you mathematically have said there's a certain density of mass energy such that the gravitational effect creates a escape velocity that is would require, say, the speed of light greater than the speed of light kind of thing. So greater than the speed of light specifically. But what the escape velocity in that reference actually is a very specific concept. It means that it does not mean that you can't move 1 millimeter. That is not what the escape velocity in that calculation represents, although sometimes, very often, it is misrepresented that way, even in scientific media. So it doesn't mean the 1 millimeter. It means, for instance, if you have a mass and you have an object going up, it has some kinetic energy. If it has enough kinetic energy, it just escapes out to infinity. It never comes back. If it doesn't have, then that's the escape velocity of that mass. Now, if you have less than that, then there's only one of a couple of things that will happen. One, you will immediately fall back down. It just you throw the apple up, doesn't have an escape velocity, it comes back down. You could also form into some kind of orbit, whether it's a circular orbit or an elliptical orbit, that are fairly stable or whatever. But they still didn't have, say, a escape velocity. They didn't just escape out to infinity. That is what the escape velocity means when they do the math to calculate what that event horizon, switch-hour radius, actually is, or how far it is from a given mass. So it's misleading to represent it as though you can't move even 1 millimeter past it, because it's not what the concept is you're calculating. Now, so the more accurate representation I feel that should be done or addressed would be where you say you have an object, you push it up, and like a rocket, you could have multi-stages. You could say, I used up the energy available of that chemical fuel or nuclear fuel or matter, antimatter, or whatever. I used up the available potential energy of that fuel, and I'm going to dump the mass so I don't have to carry it with me. You can do that, fine. You can do multi-stage rockets. You can get stuff so that you start off with this very huge, big rocket with lots, and you end up with just this small, light little thing that actually ended up with an escape velocity in multi-stages. That you can do that. And there's no reason in no good sound reason anyway that you can't do that in a black hole as well. So if I have a system here where I could see the outer edge, the outer blue ring might be, say, your conventional less than light speed kind of fast moving dust particles or whatever. So those can escape at that point. And then at the red line, you say, well, at the red line, this is your event horizon. So this is your escape velocity of the speed of light. So if you're less than that, inside that, then light can't get out anymore. But that doesn't mean light can't escape by 1 millimeter. Like I said, the escape velocity, the calculation for that is just that it can't escape out to infinity. It might go up a meter or a kilometer, and as it moves away, it could form into an orbit. It could get curved around. It could fall back in entirely, or it could be redshifted out of existence as you move out of that gravity well. It's still conserving energy and it's trading off some of that energy. Now, light continues and radio waves continue to travel at the speed of light, so they don't slow down in that sense. Instead, they redshift and they lose energy that way instead. Now, looking at this picture, you could also see a black line inside that red, which would be a point at which you could have an object, which, whether it's chemical rockets, nuclear rockets, or matter-antimatter reactions, converts whatever kind of available energy fuel source it has to provide a kinetic boost big enough so that the object gets up past the red line. So once it's past the red line, now radio frequencies and light that it emits can escape out to infinity. They can reach an escape velocity. Not the whole device, of course. A lot of your fuel, just like that multi-stage rocket, is going to fall back down, but you can get up long enough to then send something at the top of that arc out to infinity, or to whatever object. Now, of course, it would still be leaving the gravity well, and it would still be redshifted. It may also have some angular momentum imparted to it, because it's sometimes difficult to get like a perfect perpendicular launch. But that, I feel, would be a more representative example. Now, some people, for some reason, have gotten down this idea that they say that the reason you can't escape a black hole, they use the logic that it's because space itself is so curved that there's no direction that points out once you're in. And that is flawed on so many levels. One, it's not what the math is calculating. That's not what the concept of escape velocity is that they're calculating when they calculate that radius. And two, more fundamentally, it doesn't agree with any observations, because gravity moves and propagates away from the mass. That there's a direction there that it is propagating in. And if you're saying there is no direction that escapes the black hole from the inside to the outside, then gravity itself couldn't get out. if there was a complete break, like on a ruler, between the 3rd millimeter and the 4th millimeter, if there's this break where there's no direction, where 3 never gets to 4 anymore, then gravity couldn't get from 3 to 4. Gravity couldn't propagate out of the black hole either. We also have never seen any evidence that shows that there is a break like that in space itself, that space is somehow like a diode, that it's one directional, that so stuff can get in, then that's a path. That is a directional vector that you can come in and out of. The other problem that it creates by doing that is that the space itself that is supposedly getting curved, the space itself travels, goes into the black hole, and it goes back out of the black hole, because the black hole can be moving relative to that background, to the space-time fabric itself. So the space itself that is curved or whatever comes in and out of the black hole. There's a direction out. Gravity itself gets out of the black hole. So the argument itself is fundamentally flawed. It doesn't line up with any of the evidence we have. It's a theory that they try to use so that they can preserve this super thin, paper thin line that you can't cross, but that concept is flawed. It would be better, in my opinion, to represent to people more accurately what escape velocity actually is. Don't try to confuse it and change the concept on people. And that means that there is multi-stage event horizons. At this point, you would need to give up and throw away this much energy to be able to eject this tiny little signal or this small amount of mass. You can run those kinds of equations. And I would feel that would be a better, more accurate representation that the media and so forth should be giving people. Otherwise, it creates a lot of misconceptions and misinformation out there that I just personally dislike. But that's just me.